Over 20 years ago, I set about doing something different with my life. I stopped molding my resume into the perfect match for a job description I wasn't even excited about. And I decided to write my own. It said, audaciously, I want to travel the world, learn from the best leaders, and help organizations evolve. And not long after I wrote it, I landed a job at a consulting firm that paid me to do just that every day for over a decade. It was the richest, deepest, most personal education I never could have designed. Truly my dream job. It was so exciting and so intense. I was on at least one plane a day, sometimes several, for about 300 days a year. But I loved the work. And I loved it so much that over the years, I started losing perspective. My airline miles were piling up, so was my exhaustion. I was never home during the week, and when I added international travel, it took my weekends, my energy, and my life. About that time, I was starting to get this gut sense, like, was there something else out there? Which surprised me, because this was my dream job. Like, what do you do with that? And when I am in that place, I search for inspiration. So I had signed up for a leadership program at Georgetown University. And through that program, they gave me a coach. His name was Mark, and he was brilliant. I felt fully supported by him. And one day, he asked me a question that changed my life. With true curiosity, he very slowly asked, so help me understand. You got on a plane and you flew 20 hours to Australia with pneumonia because you needed to show up for the client. I was confused and a little irritated. I had just said those words, so I did not know why he was asking. And still not getting it, I clarified with this. Well, it was walking pneumonia, and they shouldn't put that in the title if it's not a possibility. No change in his face. Instead, he calmly leans forward, and he hits me with this. And does that seem normal? Yes, because it was normal to me at the time, 100% totally normal. But I could tell from his question, he wanted me to give that a second look. He was holding up a mirror, and I was dodging it. So I left that conversation. I could not stop thinking about this question. Is that normal? I was cycling through my whole life asking it. What are all the things I do regularly? So here's a few. I regularly only slept a few hours during the week. Is that normal? I don't know. A lot of people around me were doing that. I had developed some not travel eating habits because I would get in late all the time. 10:30, 11 at night, there's nothing open, there's no room service. I'm in a tiny hotel. So I started counting peanut M&Ms as protein after 10:30. Is that normal? I don't know. It seems resourceful to me. But maybe not normal. 20 hours in the plane with pneumonia, apparently not normal, but I had just learned that one. So now I'm seeing my whole life with this new lens, and I can't unsee it. And it turns out seeing is very important because we can't accurately see the patterns we are living in. This is backed by research. Tasha Eurich studies self-awareness, which, despite the title, is not about how we view ourselves. It is how accurately that view matches how other people experience us. She, in her research, surveyed thousands of people. The percent of people who believe themselves to be self-aware, get ready, 95. 95%, which is a gorgeous level of confidence. Good for us. However, when you include agreement from someone who knows that person, that accuracy rate plummets to about 10 to 15%, which is a staggering gap, and it means we don't see ourselves clearly, and we don't know it. And in my work with leaders, this is dangerous because success makes it worse. The higher you go, the harder it is to get honest feedback. And with that, your self-perception starts quietly drifting away from reality, but no one tells you. And this is really true for all of us. We start living in this bubble that we cannot see. I was starting to get a sense of my own bubble and seeing it a little bit from a distance, which is where all wake-ups begin. So the very next day in class, I learned something that absolutely blew my mind. It explained what I was doing and what I had seen other leaders doing for years. I learned that when people are no longer getting the results that they want, they will do a very curious thing. They will do more of what is not working. They will double down on effort. They will try harder, work longer, spend more hours. They will burn themselves to the wick in the hopes of better results. And I found this so interesting because we all do it, but the group who does it the most, high performers. And that made me curious. Why would we do that? On paper, it doesn't make any sense. But we do it because it works for most of our life. And it gets rewarded, and then it becomes our go-to move. And like any go-to move, we can overplay it. So we start reflexively reaching for an action. An action question sounds like this. How can I do this better, more efficiently, faster? What action can I take to get the results that I want? Action, results, within the same frame. It's called a first order question. It's very effective for many things. There's another move. It's the one we tend to avoid. It backs up a step and asks us to look at ourselves, the person taking the action. What are our beliefs, our values, our stories, our assumptions? It's called an examination question, and it's much more effective for a breakthrough, which is how I got mine. Let me show you how. For me, the action question that I was living in was, how can I recover faster so I can keep doing this work that I love? Like, do I take more supplements? Do I manage my jet lag better? That's the question I was in. It never occurred to me to ask, what assumption am I making about this work that I love? And that made me realize I was walking around, not out loud, underneath, with an assumption that to do this work that I so loved, I had to do it in this job, at this pace, with this intensity, and this many airplanes, and this many peanut M&Ms. And that gave me my aha wake-up question. Can I do this work that I love at a pace that's healthy? I get that that seems like an obvious question from the outside. From inside the bubble, it's not. I couldn't see it. I just truly could not see it. I didn't have a lot of evidence of it around. So now I've got this question, and I couldn't see it for myself. But when I learned these two questions, the action and the examination, I could see it immediately in the work that I do. That was easy. It was harder to see it for me. So in my work with organizations, the way it looks is the action question might sound like, how do we get people on board with this change? Right? I hear that one all the time. But the examination question asks, is this even the right change? And from that question, you can tell why we would avoid it. It has huge consequences. It can blow things up. And in some organizations, you will be punished just for asking it. Because now you're slowing us down. And now you're questioning something we've already invested in, so we don't even want to look at it. And that is true in our life as well. It's threatening. So we can't even look in that direction. So instead, what we do is we defend rather than examine. I was not examining my pattern. I was defending it. Because underneath, I didn't really want to give it up because I didn't believe there was another way. And I could not get to my wake up without examining that belief. I assure you, you will not get to a wake-up call by defending the current pattern you are living in. So now I had this new lens and this new question, but I had no way forward. I didn't know what to do with it. And then life made space for me to think about it. I got very sick and my body completely stopped. I developed severe fatigue. I was in bed 4 months and sick for about a year. I had no idea how to recover. So I did what I knew how to do. I mustered every piece of strength that I had, and I got on an airplane and I left the country. Only this time, I went somewhere different, and I went for me. I found this amazing oceanside retreat center in Mexico. Beautiful. Far, far, far from the pace that I was living. And for the first time in longer than I can remember, I wasn't there to perform, to deliver anything, or to even be useful to anyone. I could just be. And I could go slow. Two things totally foreign to me at this time in my life. So it took me a while to adjust. But about 2 weeks in, I'm sitting high up in the jungle in a meditation class with a very serious meditation teacher, beautiful open air studio overlooking the ocean. And she is deep into an Om when a jungle animal starts calling at the same time. It sounded like this. Nobody moved. No one smiled. No one laughed. I lost it. I could not stop laughing. I was howling. I was doubled over. Tears were coming down my face. I could not control it. And at that moment, I realized I have forgotten how to laugh like that. Just pure joy. It is how my 2-year-old laughs, utter disregard for the volume, just out loud and happy and joyful. And like a timing cue from a movie, a song started drifting into the studio, singing, "There's a way, there's a way, there's a way." And from that place, I found I could imagine a new future. And I started building the life I have today, which is just as rich, with work I love just as much, with leaders who are just as inspiring, and almost no peanut M&Ms. Amazingly, that job description I wrote 20 years ago, I still get to do that work. Only I do it a little in reverse. I absolutely get to help organizations evolve. I still learn from the best leaders, and occasionally, only occasionally, I travel the world. But I work differently because I'm different. And My coach is the one who helped me see the patterns that I was living in. And now I get to do that for the executives who are shaping the future of work for all of us. It is the greatest privilege and very full circle. It took me probably a few years to go back and look at the pieces of my wake up, but you can build it from where you are today. Here's what you need. First, find a mirror, somebody far outside of your system who can reflect back to you what has become ordinary to you. Ask them, what do you see me treating as normal that might not be serving me? Or can you see something that I can't see? Second, get out of action and into the big, scary examination questions. What stories are you telling yourself? What assumptions are you living in? What beliefs are you holding on to? And third, change the context. Get far outside of your pace, your cues, your reward system. You do not have to leave the country, and you do not have to go to a retreat center. But you do have to get away from what is familiar. Because a life-changing shift typically does not begin with doing more. It begins the moment that you see clearly what you had mistaken for yourself. Thank you.